Okay. So in talking about communication, I've narrowed it down to 6 main things to try to do. Starting with listening, affirming, basically validating, honoring, respecting, allowing the person to be heard, encouraging the person to talk, being mindful of how you say and what you say, practicing assertive speech, and using layers in your communication with others. So we'll get into those. Listen. Listen more than you talk. This gives people an opportunity to vent, share their thoughts, needs, wants, and desires. It helps them feel heard. Imagine the person you're talking to as a volcano. And maybe the volcano is getting ready to explode. Well, perhaps if you listen and show through your body language that you're listening and the things that you say, that might help diffuse all of that pressure and maybe keep the volcano from exploding. Maybe you're just able to help them release the steam. So use body language and verbal techniques that show that you're listening. For example, we often automatically mirror the behavior of people that we're talking to when we're engaged. One common example is somebody sitting in front of you in a chair, and they might start to lean a certain way, and you might actually adopt that same position yourself without even knowing it. Pay attention to that when you have conversations with others and see if you catch them. If you notice that you have an opposite position or posture, you might consider changing your position as a means to further build that connection with other people. Also, make sure that your body language shows that you respect the person and take what they say seriously. For example, instead of looking away from them and looking at different things as they're standing there talking to you, try to, give them a look in the eye. Try to say yes, I understand, nod. Those small actions can show that you're with them. You don't necessarily have to stare at their eyes the entire time. If you do look away and don't really seem to be paying attention to them, they'll likely take that as a sign of disinterest, and that won't go well. The same way, don't just stare at people in the eye. That might make them feel uncomfortable, as I imagine it might make you feel uncomfortable as well. There's also some cultural aspects to that. Culturally, some people are not used to being stared at in the eyes or doing that to others. They might take it as a sign of disrespect, potentially, or as a threatening action. Just as well, some people with behavioral health issues might find it very uncomfortable or threatening as well. So observe what the person tends to do and try to mirror that behavior. Right? So if they're pretty comfortable at providing eye contact, then go ahead and provide similar eye contact. If they tend to kind of look at you a little bit momentarily and then kind of looking almost like at your side, at the side of your face, then pay attention to that and maybe kind of mirror that as well. Taking advantage of the space you can take to listen to them can also give you time to catch up. You might find yourself feeling stressed, worried, maybe even initially a little scared. However, if it is a safe situation, listening and grounding yourself during the process is helpful in allowing your senses to come into play. Your awareness of everything that shows that you're safe and directing your attention to the person who you're talking to. Listen, understand, and give yourself time to respond. You can always even acknowledge what they've shared and let them know that you need a second to think about it before you respond. In listening, there is the opportunity to use the foundation of your knowledge about the person, the circumstances, and what they have said and try to peel the onion, uncovering layers of information so that you can figure out what the real issue is. Sometimes people will tell you very directly, and sometimes it's somewhere in between the lines. Pay attention to how people communicate the information that is meaningful to them. For instance, are they very matter of fact, almost like using bullet points as they talk to you? Or do they instead like to tell a story, share the background information, and slowly wind you through a process and telling you what's happened or what they need? Also pay attention to how your process usually goes. If you are long-winded and tell a long story, someone who is used to receiving bullet points might get frustrated or lose interest. Pay attention to signs that they might be getting tired of listening to you. It's not ideal, but it happens. If this happens, let them know that you appreciate their listening to you and that the information you're sharing does require some patience, but that it is important and that you appreciate their understanding. When listening, if at a minimum you try to listen more than you talk, I think you'll find it helpful. Affirm, or affirming somebody. Affirming is to basically convey that you are with them, that you see and recognize what they need, want, feel, or experience. You're not needing to say that the person is right or wrong. You don't need to make a judgment about what they have shared with you. You just simply have to express that you are open to hearing them tell you about something important. Doing this helps people feel validated. It helps them feel like they are being treated with dignity. You can disagree with someone, but still respect them and value them. I always like to think of how I would like someone in my position to treat my mother, or my wife, my son, a person I value in my life. And I think to myself and ask myself how I can do the same for the client I am working with, or the person I meet somewhere when I'm out. Again, we might not agree. They may be entirely wrong, but it's not about right or wrong at this point. Focusing on right or wrong, yes or no, is about power. Power is an important part of a communication, of course, because someone may ask you to do something that you do not have the power to do. For example, I would like a brand new Mercedes-Benz. I can think of the model I want right now, but instead of paying $140,000 for it, I only want to pay $5,000. What do you think the salesperson will say to me if I make that offer? Who knows, but I can imagine that it might result in him or her laughing, maybe not even saying a word. But again, that person can still have appreciation for my position, right? Wanting the car, recognizing, of course, that I'm not able to afford it. But we'll cover a little bit more on that later. When you think of affirming someone or validating someone, imagine that you fall and hurt yourself, and you're with someone you know and feel close to. How would you like them to respond to your fall and potential scrape or cut? What would you like them to do or say? That's affirming. To be treated like a human being with dignity. To be treated in the same way, frankly, that everybody should be treated. It doesn't matter if you're rich, handsome, powerful, skinny, creative, or popular. To reflect value in people and what they convey simply for being human, as they are. That's what it ultimately comes down to. As you do this with others, you are again modeling and helping them learn how to treat you and others. It won't necessarily be quick, and they may not reflect everything you do, but they'll learn. I often think of the word boundaries and how they are not just about setting limitations upon others, which in a way is about focusing on the negative or restrictive aspects of interaction and relationships, but boundaries are also as much about what you are okay with, what you do allow, what you can provide. I'll cover more on this later, but I think it connects. So as you affirm others, they'll learn something from your behavior, and that can help guide communication from both sides when it works out well. However, at a minimum, if you're the only one doing it, it still matters and it is still important, especially in consideration of your career and the kind of work that you do every day. Encourage. We're encouraging people to talk. I learned about these, and they were referred to then as minimal encouragers. These can be little behaviors or interventions on your part that convey to the other person that you're listening to them. You likely already use some of them. For example, do you ever hear yourself or others go, "Uh-huh. Right. Really? Tell me more." That's a minimal encourager. It shows that you're invested and along for the ride. The same goes for nodding your head. Noticing someone giving you direct eye contact and you returning the eye contact during the interaction. Think of the opposite of these examples. These could be like letting someone talk and not saying anything in return. Ever. It could also look like someone talking to you while you're holding your hand straight out as if telling them to stop. Remember when people would say, "Talk to the hand"? I may be dating myself here, but people would literally stick their hand out in someone's face and totally stop everything right then and there. You can also look away and never glance at them. What do you think would happen if someone did these things to you when you're in the middle of talking? Do you think you'd be inspired to share much more? Like with everything, things done at the extreme can also end up not being helpful. For example, if someone is talking to you and you say, "Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh," no way. Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Do you start to feel a little annoyed? I can imagine you are. So imagine that you're almost talking as much as they are with those uh-huh. They may get the impression that you're not being sincere. Maybe just saying that to make them think that you're listening to them, but you're really in your own little world, or that you're really just saying that to get them to get on with it and finish, but not really caring about what they're sharing. This will definitely backfire. So think of how you can encourage someone to share with you. Imagine someone who may feel reluctant to share. What kind of behaviors and things could you do or say to help them feel more confident in sharing? Make them feel that you're interested. You could literally say, "I'm really interested in hearing about this." If your behavior comes from a place of sincere interest, I would not worry so much about what you are doing specifically, as that person will likely read your behavior as being interested in them. For example, some people say that you should not cross your arms because it may look like you're not interested or even hostile. I think that may be true sometimes, but I don't think it always applies, as sometimes I like to cross my arms when I'm really listening and thinking about what someone is telling me. I find it gives me a sense of security and possibly even helps me focus.